Pastor Rich here. Today's sermon is going to be called God's Creation versus Darwin's Religion. Now, I wrote this November 29, 22. Okay? So here it goes. It is the deceiver's goal to oppose God by convincing mankind of the opposite of what God says. In the Garden of Eden, Adam was put there to tend and keep it, and was commanded not to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. Notice that they did obey until the serpent, or another translation for serpent is shining one, said to Eve, "You will not surely die. You will become like God." That is the first temptation. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of the fruit and ate, and gave to her husband, and he ate. See, many don't realize that Adam was right there as this was transpiring. When God asked Adam if he ate of the tree he commanded him not to, he immediately blamed God by saying, "The woman you gave me, she gave it to me, and I ate." He ate. She didn't shove it down his throat. Then God asked Eve, "What have you done?" She said, "The shining one deceived me, and I ate." Now they have both become wise, and the best they did was to point their finger to he did it, or she did it. Eve flat out lied by saying, "He made me do it," yet earlier she saw it was good for food. She desired to be wise. Her own selfish desires was the deciding factor in her making her decision. She made the choice to disobey. The devil merely suggested or tempted. So they cried abuse for their own actions instead of just saying sorry and repent. Their pride caused them to blame instead of take responsibility. God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all cattle and beasts of the field." Listen to this. "On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life." Many don't realize he did not start out on his belly. Genesis chapter 2, verse 3. Now, in Genesis chapter 2, verse 22 to 21 and 22, says, God caused Adam to fall asleep and took a rib from him to make Eve. The first scientific fact God gives in his Bible, that he took the chromosome from Adam to make Eve. In the past, it was thought that the sex of a baby was determined by the mother, but it is a fact that it is the male sperm XY chromosome which makes that choice. A man has both male and female chromosomes, and woman has only female chromosomes, a double X. God said it, and his science proves it. Fact, end of story. God then gives another scientific fact, that the two shall become one flesh. You've heard that? Listen to this. You are a testimony of God's truth, of the two becoming one flesh. 23 chromosomes from your mom and 23 chromosomes from your dad. Half from each parent to enter the world through your mother's womb. That's fact. End of story. Genesis chapter 2, 23 and 24. Now, an intelligent God would be wise enough to know that his creation would need food to survive and multiply. So he created fruits and vegetables for us and explained it to us scientifically with simplicity. God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass and the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth. And it was so. Genesis 1, verse 11. That is why, if you eat a mango and plant its seed, you get a mango tree. Also, that's why when you plant an orange seed, you don't get an apple tree. A fruit seed yields according to its kind. Try what God said using His science that He gave us to prove what He said. Eat a fruit, then plant the seed and see what grows. That's fact. End of story. Did you know that God's system of reproduction can be easily studied and observed on a daily basis? Let me explain. If a breeder bred a male and female Rottweiler, what breed of puppies would be produced? Rottweilers, of course. My favorite, by the way. If you try to breed 2 male or 2 female Rottweilers, they cannot reproduce. The answer is no. Can a male and female reproduce? You are here because your mother and father came together to create you. Likewise, in all of nature, God makes it that way. 2 bears create cubs, 2 cats create kittens, 2 birds create baby birds, a mother and a father to create Nemo. Female fish lay eggs or roe, or fancy word, caviar. Regardless of what you call it, females produce eggs only, and male produce sperm. That's fact. End of story. A fruit tree produces what? Fruit, depending on type. How does an apple tree make apples for apple pies? You plant a seed, and for a few years, it remains fruitless because it is immature. And then suddenly it matures, and there is a telltale sign that happens to the tree. What is it? It blossoms for the first time and thereafter. However, the blossom alone is not enough. The blossom is equivalent to a girl becoming a woman for the first time by her first menstrual cycle. The tree is now capable to bear fruit like a woman can now bear children. The fruit of the womb. That's why the Bible refers to it that way. So, just as a woman cannot get pregnant or bear fruit without sexual intimacy, a tree cannot bear fruit without pollination. Nature's sexual intimacy by bees and insects, transferring male sperm to the female egg-shaped part of the flower. Thus, we have apple pie. Fact. End of story. Do you know why God created Adam and Eve as mature adults and trees already bearing fruits? Use the common sense that God gave us all. Have you ever seen a newborn baby care for itself? Can you plant an orchard without seeds? Fact. End of story. God further provides many ancestry records in the Bible, but I'll focus on Jesus's only. 75. I could have made some errors in the counting because it's a lot. So if you want to come up with the correct one or confirm that that's correct, fine. Either way, by you trying to correct it, it's still going to prove the fact that his ancestry is there. From Adam. I have 75 from Adam. What do you say to that? Most people can trace to their great-grandparents. That's only 4th generation. Also, you can trace them in the Bible. There's many lineage that you can trace in the Bible. Have you any idea how hard it is to be able to trace 75 generations, but yet it's recorded in the scriptures? And in other books confirming that there is no errors or discrepancy, and these are hundreds of years apart, without computers, and everything was handwritten, passed down, and yet it is in the Bible. Has it occurred to you that your great grandparents walked the planet while Jesus was on earth? We are only here today because we are descendants of those who walked the earth during Jesus' time. Luke chapter 3, verse 23 to 38. Fact. End of story. Now, we will look at the religion of Darwin. This idea is based on the unintelligent selection of evolution by many simple steps to complex organisms. Darwin states that a single cell, which was actually complex, but his microscope was not powerful enough to detect that a single cell is so complex it is not possible to function with any one of its parts missing. This is a fact today. Look it up. I'll get to it at the end. But his microscope was not powerful enough to detect that a single cell is so complex it is not possible to function with any of its parts missing. Modern science knows this. It is referred to as irreducible complexity, or it's irreducibly complex. You cannot take one part, and a common example that they use is the mousetrap. It requires 5 parts to function. If one part is missing, it cannot function. And I'll use a modern analogy, is your cell phone. Okay? You need power, you need software, and you need a surface in which to communicate with, your screen. If your screen is damaged, your phone cannot work. If the software is corrupt, it cannot work. If your battery runs dry, it's useless. All 3 must be there at the same time for that phone to be fully functional. That is irreducible complexity. Okay? Do your own research though. However, Darwin says this single cell traveled through space by itself or on a rock, surviving re-entry of thousands of degrees and slamming into the ocean, surviving impact on a lifeless planet. Somehow found food or brought its own, and by an unintelligent accident effect without cause, just grew. So, without male or female anything, just turned into a fish, without parents, then reproduced a baby without parents. And you are here. That's just a quick summary of Darwin's analogy of how we are today. How come we are here today? Without sperm or egg of mature anything, just made baby everything. Explain that. Also created fruit trees without seeds, and just happened to evolve bees and insects to pollinate flowers. Yet you cannot have one without the other. Scientists today say if the bees and insects vanish, we die. So explain that backwards. If it is a scientific, irrefutable fact that without the insects to pollinate, our food supply dwindles and then dies. Now backwards, it is impossible to have one without the other. An unintelligent force just is smart enough, which requires intelligence contradicting there, and created both at the same time. Think about that. Darwin says you were half fish and human, half bird, half cat, half this or half that. Many small changes to what exists today. So why when monkeys mate, it creates baby monkeys and not baby humans? Why don't dogs produce birds? If we all have the same ancestors. If Darwin is right, this should happen on a regular basis, or at least in the fossil records. Now let's get even more scientific. All fossil records show full animals, no half anything. The oldest fossils show the Cambrian explosion. It's as if animals and all creatures just appeared out of nowhere to present time, and as if no life existed before that period. Zero evidence of evolution. Now, what's that saying? When they search all the records of all the earth, they go far back and all they realize is just boom, there was just an explosion of life, as if confirming the Bible, just God just created everything at one time. You don't see like one of my favorite is the Minions. When you see, the Minions starting out first, and then evolution, one little thing, and then population starts to increase. There's no such thing in the records. It shows an explosion of life at one point to current time. Just confirming the scriptures. No sign that your great-grandparents was a red snapper or your cousin was a lobster. If we came from monkeys, why do we have 46 chromosomes and they have 48? If evolution is real, then every day a new creature should be produced by the mating of all animals. And this is the reason why. Evolution by definition is continuous and should be easily seen in all of life on earth, because evolution is an unintelligent force which, described by its religion, is that it's something that has to keep happening, because it cannot decide when to stop, because it's unintelligent. It's a domino effect, a snowball rolling, and just has to keep going. There's no end to it, but there's no science to back that up. Natural selection. Now, this is how they claim that an unintelligent force has natural selection. How can an unintelligent effect exist without a cause to do something that can only be done by intelligence? To select is to choose one over another, to decide. Even an advanced computer cannot choose unless it is taught by a programmer. Code, for those tech savvy, that it used to make a selection. Even your software, your phone, has all these codes in it, had to be programmed. So I ask, how can a scientist go to school for 50 years to become smart, then chooses a religion that teaches that an unintelligent, non-existent force makes accidental selections over and over again to infinity? Since it cannot tell when to stop, it has to keep on evolving. The word evolution. Evolving is continuous. It cannot have an end. Darwin himself, listen to this now, this is going to blow some of your minds, and to prove the truth in what I am saying here. Darwin himself said in his 1859 book, Origin of Species, that if it can be proven that the cell is irreducibly complex, his theory would fall apart. It has fallen apart because it's a proven fact that, I'll get to that later, resulting in a discarding of his religion on evolution. Are you still a disciple of Darwin's religion? It's a belief system. Do you realize it takes more faith to believe your grandparents were fishes that you probably ate, which makes you a cannibal? I love sushi, but that would make me a cannibal if my ancestors were fishes. Than to believe the scientific fact that God gives in His Bible that can be proven on a daily basis. It is the deceiver's desire to fool you into thinking God does not exist and to undermine God's works. That is why you have heard many ways to God or to heaven. Because as long as you think that there are many ways, then there's no reason to think about God himself. That's Jesus as the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. That's what Jesus said. But yet you believe in one Satan. Satan, one. Interesting, huh? Did you know that scientists refer to creation by God as intelligent design? They refer to Darwin's religion as unintelligent design. Scientists say they believe the universe was created by sound. Look that up. Isn't it interesting that in Genesis, God spoke and things were created? In John 1, it says that God's word created all things, visible and invisible. The reason why scientists have trouble finding God is that they think science is separate from God. Man did not create science. Listen to this carefully, my friends. The word science simply means knowledge. To learn or to study, the study of. So science is not a thing in itself. It is just a word to describe a thing. Like, for example, the science of grape. What is the science of a grape? It is the knowledge or the know-how of how to take a grape to turn it into raisin, grape juice, or aged wine. That's the science of the grape, which is knowledge. Jesus said, knowledge will increase, or science will increase. Science is of God. Scientists are walking around in the dark with a blindfold on, with one eye closed, in the grooves of God's fingerprint and wondering if there is a God. What you need to do as a scientist is to close your eyes, open your heart, shut your ears, and listen with your spirit, and you will see that the God that you have been looking for was there all along. Fact, end of story. So irreducible complexity is a proven fact in the scientific world, and any scientist must employ Occam's razor. Darwinism under the microscope. These are the experts in the field, and you know what? If you go and buy the department store microscope, it is more powerful than the microscope that Darwin used back in his day. And it is stated that the microscope's power that he used back then, all he could see in a cell was the equivalent to you taking a hair gel and put a little dab on the slide and look at it through the microscope. That's what Darwin saw, a blob of nothing. That's why he referred to it as simple cell. Just like he could not see the helix, the double helix, chromosomes. That was just recently discovered, not that long ago. So, look it up. God's creation versus Darwin's religion. Which one are you from? Which faith? Where do you put your faith? I'm Pastor Rich, Walking Ministries Online, and I will see you soon.